mechanics, I feel they give a lot of room and freedom to experiment, even with builds outside of the box, and I think they're going to work, which is something I do in every game. So I'm kind of happy so far.
And the whole idea, the reason why they're so different, one of the reasons why there's 24 of them, and basically there's like 22 really, because the Sork and the Archmage share literally exactly the same, and the Bleak Sword and the Squire have relatively close enough that you could just say it's the same. So there's 22 different gameplay loops, completely unique from each other, for the sole purpose that, like, some of these things are more fun for someone than someone else. And that's the idea. We want you to have, like, 2 or 3 classes that you really like playing. And that's why you have archetypes that have different roles. So that say you really, really, really love the Archmage's mechanic, right? Like, you find that the Winds of Magic augmentation system is really fun to you. Well, now you're not just forced to play a healer with that. You can play other roles with that. And that's what that's about. And that's why when people read that, they see 24 things and they're like, well, I don't like 20 of these. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, play the other 4.
Like 4 of them.
I don't know. Those classes you mentioned, like the Archmage, I don't know. That one is something I have to see, because both in AOR and ROR, there's always been the problem that this guy's DPS'd a lot and had a lot of healing, and there was not right balance there, or the DPS to do more heal or heal to do more DPS. It wasn't never working properly in either of those versions.
Which is why we went hard specializations.
Yeah, makes sense. So,
for example.
Yeah, go on. Give the example. People are always interested in examples.
For example, everyone knows that a DPS warrior priest and a DPS doc has always been kind of held back on what they're allowed to do, because at any point in time, they also can heal people.
Mm-hmm.
Hard specializations allows us to take those skills away from them if we want to. And so we have. But, like, it allows us to give them exactly how much we want and not have to worry about their ability to pull skills from another tree. So, for example, we could make a DPS warrior priest that actually is a DPS and does damage like a DPS, because they can't just start healing their group like they can.
Question, because they came up when I was doing a video for Empire Mechanics. Does the warrior priest get a shield?
The Silver Hammer warrior priest has a shield, yes.
Right, okay. Just checking. So, let me ask you something else now.
We did that before Return of Reckoning did.
Okay, fair enough.
I just thought it was hilarious, because it was originally in our tests, and we had a public builder, and then, like, about 6 months later, they added shields to warrior priests, and we're like,
well, there was
how long it took us to find.
There was a joke about this. You know this. If you watch one of the official trailers, the one about Chaos and Empire, there's a warrior priest holding a shield on that one. And somebody said at some point they were watching the videos to get ideas how to implement things in the game and stuff like that. And it became a joke that they're making the balance and stuff according to the video and the official trailer. Now, I don't know exactly who said that and what.
So Archmages fighting melee with their staff.
Something like that.
They did in the trailer. They went toe-to-toe with a witch elf.
Yeah, I know the trailers, but I haven't seen that in RR. Anyways, let me ask you a few things a little bit. Since you said that all these things have been concept tested and they are either coded or been coded, at least the ones we've seen on the public releases on your Discord. And for those listening, I will put a link underneath this audio or video file, whatever it's being. So you can join and ask questions directly to the chat and be updated. So how did you get your first testers to test all these things, the concepts, the gameplay?
So our first testers were primarily pulled in by Balance team members, John, Lefsey, Densari. And like I said, our first set of tests were done with high skill players, players who played 5-6 years ago that were doing like 6v6s, like full like tri-pants kind of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because the concept is that we want to make the game balanced on the really high end so that people are pulling in more than just like the same 6 fucking characters, right?
Yeah.
In high end content, and then go back and make sure that the mechanics that they have aren't oppressive to players who could care less about being good. Because those players exist. A lot of those players exist. And so the first round, so everything was based off that. And then also based off people that have tested other games before and actually provided feedback. Because the first sets of testing, while we were testing actual things work, we're also testing, are they fun? Is it engaging to play with? And we need that feedback. We needed that actual feedback. And a lot of regular people don't actually provide feedback when they get and do tests, right? So the first set of testers, phase 1 and phase 2 testers were pulled with those kinds of things in mind from people that we knew. And then also other phase 1 testers and phase 2 testers would bring in other people. So it was kind of like we got the first set, and then we had like a second and third set that was pulled in from the original set, as we wanted more people to test larger scale things.
So how you said a bit earlier that the more people you tested was about 30, right? 35, something like that.
At one point.
So what will the server be able to handle at launch? 1,000 people, 500 people, 1 million?
So part of the testing roadmap in quotations, because it's a more traditional testing setup, is that we will test with more and more people on the server until we break it.
Okay.
And before launch, like before we actually launch, we'll have like, an open beta where anyone can fucking come and test and hopefully pull as many people as possible to break it, right?
Right.
So I don't have an actual number at the moment because.
But what are you aiming for?
3,000
people, 2,000 people, to have like a little bit of space? No, you don't know. Okay, fine.
No, I mean I do. So it's just the answer is slightly more complicated. So realistically, there's the realism argument, and then there's the server coding argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
So server coding, then this would be kind of like from Azarel's design, since he's trying to create server coding that is as good as as an actual game developer. So like functionally in code, you're looking at like a cap of 20, 30,000 people on a server.
All right. Okay.
But we're not unrealistic. We don't expect to pull 20, 30,000 people on the server. But like functionally, right? That's the expectation of what the code should be able to handle.
Well, no, I mean, that is good, because if you can handle that many people, even if you start with 100 people, okay?
Right.
And then you start getting more and more people, and you get to 500 to 800 to 1,000 out of 2,000 people, whatever. At least it's been designed to hold a lot more, so the lag and the hardware will be there. It's not going to be like, oh, we got to 200 people, shit, we need to upgrade now. You know what I mean? And then wait and do it and create frustration.
So realistically, we're expecting more than 200 people, right? So the first instance of hardware and stuff like that we'll find out on how much we actually need to put onto a server, right? When we get into the like phase 5 testing, because that's when we'll start pulling in as many people as possible to see.
Okay.
And we'll have numbers, right?
Yeah.
We'll have a fair amount of numbers, and then we'll be okay. And if it doesn't crash, if we know that nothing fails once we get to those numbers, yeah.
Okay.
So it's just.
Okay. So the number will come through testing. And then
Yes.
you'll adjust the hardware accordingly. Okay. So if I understood correctly, so far you've done, let's say, round testing 1, round testing 2. So now we are moving to testing round number 3.
Yes.
Okay. So how many people do you think you're going to require for number 3? Because you mentioned you're going to be, at some point, there will be opening applications for that testing round, right?
That testing round will be... so that testing round will be for making sure that all of the mechanics have transferred properly to the new base coding, the C coding that Asa has written instead of the C#.
Yep.
That phase will be relatively long. I mean, actually not compared to phase 2. Phase 2 is really long. But so I don't know. I mean, the answer for me, because I'm the one responsible for testers, right? The answer is as many people as I need in order to get the information I need, and also make sure that those testers have fun.
Okay. So the application you're going to open up when you open it up, can you just give me maybe 2 or 3 requirements for those people to join that round of testing?
The application will essentially be 3 questions. Why do you want to test? Like, what is your motivation for testing? Give me an example of something you don't like and defend it. So, like, give me a balance argument. And then the third one is, this is a bug that exists. Please write a bug report for me.
Right. Okay. Reasonable questions.
Your like whether or not your application is accepted is based off of those answers and how useful they look like they might be. So the better you are at providing either feedback or bug reports, the more likely it is that you'll be pulled into testing earlier. But like I said, we'll have open testing later at some point, because at that point we won't really need feedback. We just need hard data. But the first sets of testing is we need the feedback. We need the bugs. So we require people that are capable and willing to do those kinds of things. Phase 1 and phase 2 testers will not need to apply. They will automatically be allowed. At any point in time, if you're pulled in as a tester, like if you get pulled in at phase 3, you are good for all future phases.
Right. Okay, that's fair enough. So here's a hard question. So this round 3 testing phase, is there any chance you can make a prediction or give us a time frame, like not the 28th of October or something, but in 5 to 10 months? A bracket.
Here's why I can't really. So the policy that Interbellum has related to ETAs also applies internally. So, I can't be like, so I can't ask a developer, right? So I can't ask Ava or Kethric or Legatus. I can't be like, hey, can you give me an ETA on when you're going to have that done, right? It's a method of, because we're all volunteers, so it's a method of making sure that people aren't getting applied undue pressure. So I am waiting on Azrael to finish 1 or 2 last components of the ability system before I can apply things back to the C++ coding myself. I will be able to give a better estimation when it is on me.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
But it's currently not on me.
I have 2 more questions on this topic before we move on to something else. When everything is said and done, the game launches, will there be a permanent test server alongside the live one? So when you guys have an upcoming patch, people can go and test it before it's transferred to the live server, like PTR or New World and things like that.
Yes, there will be a PTR, And if you want proof of that, you can look in the GM document. Actually, I don't know if it's in the GM document. Anyways, since I have the balance team document open here, two components of it says balance team has 0 additional privileges on the live server. Balance team has all additional privileges on the test server. There will be a test server. The test server won't be open all the time, obviously.
Yeah, PTR is not. It opens
server.
like a week or 2 weeks in advance before the patch applied, so people can test it, give some feedback, and then fix it, and then put it on the live server.
So you are looking, because we have our seasons approach, right? So you are looking at in between seasons, you'll probably have a test server that is opened in order to get people in order to test things. That's the concept, and it will usually be done in the off seasons, the time between the 2 seasons. One, because now at that point, no one is competing against other people for like first place in reward charts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So the competition aspect is gone during in between seasons. And 2, because our seasons are about when we drop new content and new major balance changes. So that would be roughly when you're looking at when PTRs will be open for people to test things.
Okay, so how long will the seasons be? 3 months, 4 months each, or?
The current idea, obviously not solidified, is 4 months per season.
Okay. So the other question I have is, there's you said before there was a website at some point, right?
Yes, we originally had a forum.
So what happened to this? I mean, I get a couple of questions like, is there a website we can go and get officially informed? I know you guys have Discord, but people's been asking for a website. I think it might be easier for them to get information. Do you think you guys going to be reactivating the forums, or even, making a website where you will also have all the other functionalities like, report a bug, communicate, ban appeals, all the other stuff? Or most of these functions like report a bug, ban appeals, and other things like that will work in the in-game menu? Because the game does have a menu.
We will have a website.
Okay.
We will have a website. We originally had a website when we were doing phase 1 and phase 2 testing. We took the website down when we quote unquote went dark. And that was just because we needed to redo the server coding by a lot. Because we found we originally started by refactoring War Emu code. And decided that there was just too much fucking wrong with it, so we, stopped doing a lot of the semi-public stuff that we were doing. So we took the website down. It's backed up somewhere, so all of our forum posts are backed up. They're being held by our server maintainer. Oh, technically, we have a 5th department. I forgot that. We have a 5th department called miscellaneous. For just like the server maintainers in that department.
So you bring up another question now, though. I mean, you had the website, Discord is there. Now you have a YouTube channel as well. How the hell was this project kind of kept under the radar for so long? Because I don't think a lot of people knew about this server being made, or
Mostly because we didn't make a lot of noise on purpose.
Okay. So now are you making noise?
I did not. We did not intentionally, no. We did the Q&A kind of.
Yeah, you did the Q&A, but now it's getting traction and more people are getting interested into this. So do you think that since now you're getting all this traction, I hope it's not putting any, pressure onto the team to rush things and, make mistakes or get things which are unfinished out there and create more frustration and problems, that it's time for you guys maybe to slowly start thinking about, a website, more videos on your YouTube, even if it's like, a small video of Photoshop working on a shield or a sword or something.
So we have we have a specific duality to staff of front-facing versus rear-facing. Okay, so most of the rear-facing staff is insulated from the community in terms of that kind of pressure that you're talking about. I see it as a project lead, right? So the Q&A was originally meant to wake up the people that were in our Discord, the like 100 and something previous testers and interacting people we had before. It blew up more so than we wanted, which is fine. But it did change the way that I work, and also meant that we had to like actually create the rest of our community relations department, because we just had 2 CMs and that was it, because we weren't really, community relating, right? And so it has changed a little bit how I function, because I will spend time now every morning. I usually give not every morning, every day that I sit down to code, I will spend roughly 30 minutes on a public release document. And then I spend the rest of the time on coding. So it has slightly changed, right? Because we were going to do the Q&A, and we were going to do some public releases to get our testers ready, like our previous testers, like with the stuff that had changed for them. And so that when we did testing, that they would be, ready to go. And that's what those first public releases were. At this point, things are being public released that the public didn't know or had no idea about. That doesn't have much to do with preparing testers anymore, because my previous testers already know some of this. Some of these mechanics and stuff, these guys have already played with. So it, like I said, it has changed a little bit on the original plan for public releases, but it hasn't changed much on what people are doing on the back face.
Okay.
Other than me, like I said, I spend 30 minutes.
How many hours, let's say a day on average, do you spend on this project? Because this is a free project, not getting paid.
How often do you see me in the chat there?
Quite a bit.
So if I'm sitting in what's called Ram's sweatshop in the Discord server, I'm currently working on the project.
So
that's what that's for.
You're saying average like 5 hours a day, I would say.
No, God,
less, no. More or less.
I would say, because there, for example, I don't do it on the weekends usually because I'm at work. So I would say probably 4 or 5 hours, maybe 4 times a week. That's for me.
Okay.
I think
it's a free project.
Yeah, I know. I think AZA is like 24, 25 hours a week of actual coding, because there's a thing about code work. There's the actual writing, and then there's trying to figure out what the fuck you should, like, how to do it, right?
Yeah.
So there's the thought processes, which can be done when you're not sitting at the computer. And then there's the actual sitting there writing, thousands of lines of code. So when I give you those numbers are like writing things, not thinking about it. Like, I actually write a lot of stuff down on notebooks, and so I'll be sitting there at work and I'll be writing stuff in a notebook because there's no one currently in front of me to talk to. So I'll be, and other people are the same, although they don't use notebooks. I'm old school. I write stuff on paper.
It's good.
Like,
me too.
They so there's the thought process that goes into stuff. Doesn't actually necessarily require you sitting in front of the computer to do it. It's
I understand exactly what
very complicated
I think,
work.
Well, I think of content all the time. I could be sitting here watching a movie, and my mind is like thinking, what should I do for the next video, whatever. The same way you guys, and then you implement it. It's understandable. People that deal with content creation in any level, they understand that. But since you got a bit technical, with coding and all that, I have a few, let's say, technical questions. First of all, will the Interbellum server have an installer and a launcher? or we're gonna go torrent and then unzip this and put it there. And
there is a launcher, which will patch your game, so you don't have to do manual patches. As for an installer, it's just the clean Age of Reckoning 1.4.8 client that we patch. I will say your Return of Reckoning client will no longer function because they've changed a couple things inside the client, which they should. We do too.
okay.
So we'll provide a clean 1. Actually, yeah. So we provided a 1.4.8 patch to our testers. I assume we'll do the same. I don't know why the hell we wouldn't.
Okay.
And then when you launch the launcher, it will patch your MIP files to Interbellum ones. It will not patch a Return of Reckoning client.
Yeah, I mean, it's two different servers. That's okay. Second question: can we install Interbellum server in any drive and any folder? And what I mean is, on the ROR version, it's recommended you do not install it in the program files. There's some sort of a duplication happening or something like that. You guys have any issues with that, or?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Also, will there be a 64-bit client? I mean, I don't even know if that is possible, but I believe there was a pseudo 64 emulation something on Return of Reckoning at some point, because I think most gamers now have 64-bit clients anyway. So
there is a 64-bit pseudo client. I don't remember how it works, but
okay,
no,
I mean, I don't want the technical stuff, but.
No. We are not making a 64-bit client that would take. We want the game to come out in some point in time. We don't have enough people to sit there and make that at the moment.
That's just a question.
No, I know. I'm just saying. I'm managing expectations on that. It does. We do have the 64-bit pseudo emulation executable in the version that we use. I launched the 64-bit pseudo emulation myself.
Okay. Do you know if the server is going to be EU or US based?
It'll be in Europe.
It will be in Europe. Okay.
Last phase of testing, we're doing it out of the Netherlands.
Okay. When you guys are doing hot fixes or anything like that, will there be requirements for a server to shut down and wait 5 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, 2 days, whatever? Or you have a way to do hot fixes without restarting the server?
You'll get a weekly downtime just because it's good for servers in general. As for a hot fix, it kind of depends on what the hot fix is about. Certain things can be reloaded.
Yeah. How long will be the weekly downtime?
I'm not the server maintainer, and I've never asked.
So I'm asking because, like, WoW has an hour, EVE Online had 20 minutes. Just if you had an idea. Okay.
So WoW has they say an hour, and it's usually about 7 minutes because they just restart the server. The reason why they say an hour is just in case anything goes wrong.
Okay, I haven't played WoW in years.
Yeah, it also depends on what. So, like, I would say standard maintenance would probably just be like a server restart in order to refresh all the programs and operating system and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would say patch day, like seasonal patch day, like large patch days, would probably be longer. Same as like every fucking game
in the world
that exists. Yeah. So you can expect standard gaming stuff related to maintenance.
Okay. Will there be a character deletion period? At the moment on RR is about a year if you don't log in.
No.
Okay.
I've had nobody say that we should do that. So
okay.
No. I mean, a character is just a small string of data on a server compared to everything else.
Maybe you want to recycle names. I don't know, Which brings me to my next question. Will people be allowed to name change in the game? And if so, will there be a time limit?
My community manager stated that if people want to change their character names, that it would be done through community relations so that people don't violate terms.
Okay, I'm asking because I'm against that, because I've been playing MMORPGs for a long time, and I had people that you can change your name, let's say every week or every month, something like that, and then they go out there and they're assholes about to people, and then they change the name. Oh, this guy's left, and they're still there with another name. So personally, I don't like name changes, but some people do. You misspell something, you do a mistake, or you want to reserve a name, but.
All right, I'll give you some background on my both of my community managers' statement on that. Right, so Discord, during the Q&A and afterwards, right. Originally, people could change their nicknames on their own, right?
Yeah, and then you guys changed it,
right? Because we got people that were impersonating Return of Reckoning staff, which we did not want. We had people who were impersonating Interbellum staff, which we did not want. We had people that were writing things like H.P. Lovecraft's cats, which I don't know if you know what H.P. Lovecraft's cat's name was, but it's a racial slur.
I don't, but I take your word for it.
We had people that were, just all kinds of just really, really bad stuff. And we were having to moderate constantly. So we eventually were just like, fuck it. And we took away everyone's ability to change their nicknames unless it goes through CMs.
Ramsey, I've said this before. I've said this to everybody. People don't know where the freedom ends and someone else starts. So if you don't put the barriers yourself, they will just keep going until there's no further to go, They just don't get it.
Right.
But
so in terms of character name, it'll be exactly like it is on Discord. You can submit a request for a character name, and a GM or a CM will review it and say yes or no.